We're learning Igeres HaKodesh Yud. Okay? That's on page 228. And this Igeres, which is also about tzedakah, the Alter Rebbe addresses, without saying who he addresses, but he's addressing the people in Russia who, in the previous letter, he called upon them to support the tzaddikim, Reb Mendel Vitebsker and Reb Avram Kalisker, who made Aliyah to Tveria. In this Igeres, my understanding is that he's really talking about the Hasidim giving tzedakah to the locals who are in need. So, Igeres HaKodesh Tes and Yud are next to each other, number 9, number 10, not just because of the numbers, but because the teichen, the content, is about supporting the tzaddikim in Eretz Yisrael, and in this chapter it's about supporting the locals. Let's see what he says. Igeres HaKodesh Yud, page 228. Aleph Dalet Shin is an acronym. It stands for Acharei Drishas Shalom. Drishas Shalom, of course, you know, means giving regards of peace. So the Alter Rebbe starts in a most beautiful way. After giving regards to you guys, you Hasidim, V'chayim, and life, Pesach Dvorai Yoir, the opening of my words should arouse. Now the Alter Rebbe says, okay, I greeted you properly, and I'm wishing you all life, Chaim. Now he says, but what I'm going to say, I hope, will arouse within you the right thing. And what is that? He quotes a pasuk. Oizen shemas teichaches Chaim. The air, Oizen, will hear, will listen to the scolding, the musar, tochachas Chaim of life. Asher hechiach Hashem Chaim, that Hashem, that God scolds life al yidei nevioi, through his prophets. And it's a pasuk, and what does it mean? It means that when a Navi spoke, Hillel, and even when he scolded you, he scolded the Jewish people, Yoini, the purpose was Chaim, the purpose was life. The purpose was to improve you. So the Alter Rebbe is saying that he hopes that his words in this letter, in this Igeres, will have the same effect, Nisr. Rather than taking it in a negative way that the Rebbe is giving me musar, and the Rebbe didn't have anyone else to pick on except me. Alter Rebbe says that when a Navi gave musar, the purpose of the musar was for improvement. So he hopes that his words of musar that he's going to share throughout this Igeres, this letter, it will be taken in the same way. The Omar, and he says, the verse says, Chazdei Hashem kiloi etzet kiloi tamnu the goymer. Chesed of Hashem doesn't end. Tamnu means cease. Asks the Alter Rebbe a simple question. He should have said, the pasuk should say, Kiloi sammu. God's kindness doesn't end. In other words, in all situations in life, be it perceived good or God forbid otherwise, it's all good, it's all chesed. Yeah? What's this nun? Tamnu. Tamnu, the nun implies that it's referring to what? To the people. And kiloi samu, the literal meaning is, it refers to Hashem. Hashem's kindness won't cease. That's his question. Look at the question. The pasuk should have written kiloi tamu without the nun. One second, Hila, 1 second. And he brings a verse, another verse, which says kiloi sama chasadecha. Right? For kiloi samu, it will never end. Chasadecha, your kindness. So we see that Hashem's kindness, loi samu. What's the extra nun over here? Etc. Yes, Hillel, you wanted to ask something. You're on mute, I can't hear you. You're on mute, I can't hear you. Hello, I can't hear you, you're on mute.
Hello, you're on mute. Okay. Rabbi Dalfin, can you check your camera?
Yeah, why?
Do you see him, yes, sir? No, we're looking at the bottom of the laptop.
Oi!
Yeah.
Oi. I'm sorry.
Oh, closer. There you go.
I'm sorry. Okay?
And where were we? I had stepped out for a moment and I'm lost.
We're on Igeres HaKodesh Yud 10. Did you follow the question?
Where are we?
We are in Igeres HaKodesh 10.
Okay, fine.
Okay?
Right, I'm with you now.
So the question was very simple. The question was, why does the pasuk say ki lo tamnu with a nun regarding Hashem's kindness? It should say ki lo samu, and he brings the pasuk, another pasuk which says ki lo samu chasadecha. In other words, samu goes on the chasadim, on the kindness of Hashem. Samnu with the nun goes on us, anachnu. We're talking about Hashem's chasadim. Of course it's going to us, but it's not. You want to emphasize that Hashem's chesed is constant. And even in a situation where it appears to be not that way, you should know it's Hashem's chesed. That's his question. Let's go on. V'yuvin al pi mashikosav b'Zohar HaKodesh. It will be understood based on what it says in the Holy Zohar. Is chesed v'is chesed. There is one type of chesed and there's another type of chesed. Is chesed olam. The first type of chesed is what we call a worldly chesed, chula, etc. The second type of chesed is v'is chesed ilah. There's a supernal chesed. The who, and this Zohar says, is called Rav Chesed, an abundance of Chesed. Now, before we continue, I want to tell you the way it's explained in Chassidus and the way the Alter Rebbe adds a different explanation here in Tanya. Because this is quoted in many places in Chassidus. Basically, chesed oila means, a worldly chesed means a chesed that's associated with the world we live in. In other words, this chesed is already limited. It's generated by the olam. Chesed olam. Naturally, if it's a chesed olam, it has limitations, because the world is limited. Says the Zohar HaKodesh, that's one type of chesed. It's chesed of Hashem, but it's limited. Then there is Rav chesed. Rav Chesed means an abundance of Chesed, which means it transcends the parameters of the world, and it's not generated by the world. You don't create God's kindness in that mode. God's kindness in that mode begins with God, not with us. Whereas the first level of Chesed begins with us. We create the Chesed that God gives us. Okay? That's the interpretation, generally speaking, as brought in the Chassidus. Here in Tanya, the Alter Rebbe is going to say a fascinating thing. He's going to say that even within the Rav Chesed, there's two levels. There's a Rav Chesed that we call Chesed, Chesed Olam, and there's a type of Rav Chesed that's Rav Chesed. I'm not going to tell you more. You're going to read it. We're going to learn it ourselves soon. But that's his Nakuda. So in other words, and that we need to really understand, because the different, yes, Hillel.
I'm just wondering, this phrase from the Zohar, Eis Chesed ve'Eis Chesed, we'd sort of say in English something like, there's Chesed and then there's Chesed. Do you think that Zohar has sort of like an implication like that?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. So, again, the Chiddush here in Tanya is going to be that within the level of Rav Chesed, there's two experiences. Okay? That's not the norm, the way it's explained in other Maimorim. Let's see what he says. Ki hine b'das ois, it is known, HaTorah nikras ois. The Torah is called ois. There's a pasuk, ois v'shashiyah, mightiness, strength, salvation. He refers to Torah. Shehu Loshen Gevura. Oi's might is Gevura, is severity, is judgment, is Gevura, strength. And as the Chazal say, Taryag mitzvahs nemru l'Moshe b'Sinai, 630 mitzvahs were given to Moshe. Mipi ha-Gevura, from the mouth of Gevura. Why Hillel? Why not Mipi Hashem? Mipi ha-Gevura. So we see an association between Gevura and the 630 mitzvahs in the Torah. The Alter Rebbe brings the pasuk with the chsiv, miyaminai, from God's right, eish das lomei, comes forth the religion, the das, the religion, the Torah, eish, out of fire. So here's the issue. Wait a minute. Isn't Torah chesed? So all of these, the pasuk and the chazal, that ein ois el Torah, implies there's an aspect of gvura within Torah. And that's what the Alter Rebbe is about to explain now. Listen to this. Pirush, that's why the word pirush is here, to reconcile this seeming contradiction. Pirush. שהתוירו מקוירו ושורשו הוא רק חסדי השם המכוננים בשם ימין. The Torah, the way it's in its source, it is only the God's chesed that's nicknamed with the name right, Yeminoi. Dahainu, hamshochas prinus alikusi yisbarich. It means it's the way Torah is drawn down by God into the world. V'ha'ara, and it's only an emanation, Ma'irisav Baruch Hu, from the infinite light, Elohelim esel yodim tatoim, to the supernal lower worlds. Ayidei Adam, man through doing Torah mitzvahs draws it down. Ha'ir alatzvi on himself, B'kim ramach mitzvah, by fulfilling his 248 mitzvahs. Positive commandments, Shein ramach evodim, the malchut, the 248 limbs of the king. So in other words, when we do Torah mitzvahs, positive commandments so far, we're talking about, you draw down a limited light of Hashem into the world. That we call Chazdei Hashem, God's chesed. It's limited, right? You'll see in a moment. Tzitzis brings down one hamshacha, tefillin another hamshacha. Every mitzvah has its corresponding or that's drawn down because of that mitzvah. So Isser, when you do the mitzvah of tefillin, you're not drawing down the mitzvah, the or that comes down through putting a mezuzah on your door. And so each mitzvah is limited to that limb, right? So that's a chesed. It's hamshacha. Chesed means to draw down like water goes from above to below. It's coming down. We are causing it through the mitzvah, but it's a limited one. Okay, let's continue. Pirush, Ramach Kelim, meaning we create 248 vessels, vilavushim, and garments, leha'ara, to this emanation of God. Ma'ini Baruch Hu, to this infinite emanation, hamalubish behen, that's invested in the particular limbs. In the parentheses, and from this energy, Yumshich loitchilu rechimu, will come forth fear and love for God. B'chol mitzvah kenoida. It's a very important parenthesis. You put on tefillin in the morning. You have to know, Dalton Rebbe is saying, that within that mitzvah of tefillin in the morning, there's a certain type of awe and love for God that will be generated that's limited to you putting on a tefillin in the morning. And guess what? When you put up a mezuzah later in the day, or you go and visit someone in a hospital or nursing home, or you do another mitzvah, the tchilu rechimu, the love and fear can be completely different. That's why, Chevra, this explains the Gavaldik Azach. Why is it in certain mitzvahs I feel high, I feel Gavaldik, and in certain mitzvahs I just do and I feel nothing. So of course it depends on your refinement. But another thing it depends on is the channel that it's going through, the keli. Yeah, this is what the Alter Rebbe is emphasizing here. You hear this? It's not only because you woke up on the right side or you woke up on the wrong side today. Or you heard good news or God forbid otherwise. The hamshacha, the energy that's coming down through this mitzvah, goes through the channels of this mitzvah. And each mitzvah has a different way of having the energy filter itself through. That's the chiddush. The fact that, hey, I woke up great, I'm not in a good mood, I'm in a good mood, I worked more, I worked less, I refined myself more and all that, that's you. And that's true. That means that even if the energy here is very powerful and very strong, but if you're a shmigegi, if you're not there, it ain't happening. Jump up and down, it's not going to happen. We're talking about inspiration now. Inspiration. Inspiration warrants a keli. Keli meaning a refinement on my part. What am I doing to refine? What am I doing to channel this energy in a way that I'm inspired by it? So you could have the greatest energy, the greatest gift, but if you're not a mensch, at the end of the day, it's all nevad, lost. The Alter Rebbe is saying a similar thing. Let's continue. This drawing down of energy of Hashem is first invested in Hashem's midah of Gevura, that's nicknamed, called in the pasuk in this verse, Eish das Lamei, fire. This means the energy is contracted, the light and the energy, and the Meshachas Moed Baruch Hu that comes from the infinite God. Why? In order for the energy to invest itself in actual practical mitzvahs, it needs to be minimized. If it comes down with its full potency, the mitzvahs can't handle them. Because most mitzvahs are from material matter, kitzitzis, like tzitzis, tefillin, the korbanos, tzedakah. Stop. Therefore, since the mitzvahs, Yoini, this is the point. Since the mitzvahs are mostly in Gashmias, involve material, therefore, Gashmias is not a vessel for Ein Sof on a revealed level. So what has to happen is the Ein Sof has to contract itself. And we call that Chesed. Regular Chesed. Chesed Oilo. So again, this, Isra, I don't know if you're following, because you're going to ask me tomorrow.
Following up until the Chesed part.
Wait.
Right? So it's
Yeah.
Gvura.
Oh, no. The process in which the Chesed is...
Gvura, so.
Exactly. So the process is Gvura. The Tzimtzum. But what's the content of it? Chesed.
So it's Gvura and Chesed.
It's a Chesed as filtered through the Gvura.
So I'm anticipating that the Ilah, Rav Chesed, is going to be without limitation.
Very good.
Without Gvura.
Very good. You're on the right track. Yes, Hillel.
So if somebody says, if you ask somebody how they're doing and they say Chaste Hashem, can read into it, they can say, well, I'm feeling the Gevuras, but I know there's Chesed behind it.
Yes. Yeah. Because that's a limited Chesed. It's not Rav Chesed. It's not Rav Chesed. It's exactly, it sounds funny what you said, but that's exactly the point. That Chesed, that Chesed is limited. That's why what you're hearing, what you're feeling is the Gevura. But Torah is Chesed. Let's continue. Okay, he says, before we spoke about the mitzvahs that are Gashmis. So what about the mitzvahs that are, their content is more ruchnius, spiritual, for example? Kama yira v'yava, awe and love for Hashem. Right? It's not tangible, it's not physical. So maybe in yira and ava, over there, you can experience the higher level of chesed, says the Alter Rebbe. Afal pikein, nevertheless, hey, b'bchinas gvul u'mid, they're limited. V'loi b'bchinas ein sof klal, and they're not infinite at all. Ki ha'ava rabba l'Hashem, b'li ketz gvul, because the abundant love without any limit, umida ein ha'adon yochel l'seiv le'belibay, your heart cannot tolerate it. It's too overwhelming. V'lahavis v'liyos kayim begufo yafilu rega. You can't exist. That's what he says here. If the Ava Rabba would be beliboy. 1 second. And he brings the Chazal. It happened once and it didn't work. Shebeshah Shas Matan Torah. At the time when Hashem gave the Torah, Shahaisa is Galus, top of page Kuf Tezvav, Elkusi is Baruch. There was the revelation of godliness, the Oiri Sof Baruch Hu, an infinity of God. B'pchinas Dibur, through the words, Anoichi Hashem Elkecha and all that. There's Galus, and it was revealed, and guess what? Parcha Nishma. So their souls flew out. What happened? Did we do anything wrong? We're standing at Har Sinai. We're anticipating Aseres HaDibros. We're in love with God, all for God, trepidation, all right? The mountain shook and everything else. So we're there. What happened? Why Parcha Nishmasam? Because the R is such an R that it is impossible, or in this case, the love is such a love. It's impossible to exist physically and have it. And that's why Parcha Nishmasam. So you're probably going to ask yourself, I'm wondering, well, as Isser was getting to, so this other Ava, the Chesed, Rav Chesed means that I can exist and have an Ava Rabbah in the physical, right? We'll see about that tomorrow, Mitzvah. What time is it now, Chevra?
14, 3:14.
We'll stop here, Mitzvah,
3:14.
and we'll continue tomorrow, okay? Zeit gesund, Psiris Tevis.
Yeah, feel well.
Thank you.